In 1974, the whole country was shocked to hear that the beloved granddaughter of a wealthy media legend, the great-granddaughter of billionaire George Hearst, had been arrested. The 19-year-old girl grabbed a gun and opened fire on people in a bank to rob. Patricia Campbell Hearst was the granddaughter of publishing magnate William Randolph Hearst. She became famous after being kidnapped by a leftist urban guerrilla group called the Symbionese Liberation Army, SLA, eventually joining her captors in a bank robbery. Hearst was imprisoned for nearly 2 years before being formally pardoned by President Jimmy Carter. She was later pardoned by President Bill Clinton in his final act before leaving the presidency. On April 15, 1974, at 9:40 a.m., customers were still coming to the Hibernia Bank in the Sunset District of San Francisco to make their transactions. Suddenly, 4 white women and a black man walked in and shouted, "All hands up! Sit on the floor, hands on your heads. Hurry up!" In about 4 minutes, they had grabbed $10,000, injured 2 people, jumped into a waiting car and disappeared. When reviewing the videotape in the bank, the police announced a rather surprising piece of information. Among the robbers, the police recognized the face of a 19-year-old girl who had been missing for 2 months. That was Patricia Campbell Hearst. Not only that, Patricia held a gun in her hand and acted very excitedly. During this time, the story became a big question mark. The truth behind the incident was still being debated. Patty is the beautiful granddaughter of media legend William Randolph Hearst. On February 4th, 2 black men and a white woman broke into the apartment, threatened her with guns, and kidnapped her. The police identified the daring kidnappers as members of the Symbionese Liberation Army, SLA. The event was related to politics. The kidnapped person was the heir to a famous family. The incident was hushed up for 12 hours, and then the story was like a blockbuster that shocked public opinion. The news quickly spread around the world. One thing that made the state wonder: this woman did not participate in any political activities or any violence. So what is the connection here? The truth about the hostage worth hundreds of millions of dollars. A man named Donald DeFreeze, calling himself Field Marshal Sink or Sink Tomb. Like the notorious criminal Charles Manson 5 years earlier, he wanted to start a revolution for the underprivileged and declare war on those with money and status in society. That is why many followers followed and worshipped Field Marshal Sink Tomb. The SLA was active between 1973 and 1975. The group committed several bank robberies, 2 murders, and other acts of violence. But the SLA only really gained attention and recognition when it carried out the kidnapping of a member of a powerful, famous family with a huge fortune, the granddaughter of media legend William Randolph Hearst, the great-granddaughter of billionaire George Hearst, that is Patty Hearst. At that time, no newspaper publisher was more powerful, charming, or important than William Randolph Hearst, Patricia's grandfather. He was not only a powerful media mogul, but also a great figure in American history. He built the largest mansion in America in San Simeon, and the name Hearst family in 1974 was a symbol of power and wealth, like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos today. The kidnapping of a Hearst daughter was not accidental, but because it was a famous American name. The kidnapping shocked the whole country and was featured on the front page of national news channels. The SLA wanted the incident to be more dramatic than that. Back to the kidnapping, with a hostage worth hundreds of millions of dollars, the security was deployed very carefully. Patty was locked in a private room in the headquarters, not even allowed to use a private bathroom. The SLA's goal for the publishing legend's beautiful granddaughter was to demand a ransom of up to $400 million to be distributed to every poor family in California, in exchange for the safe return of Patty. Immediately, Patty Hearst's father spent up to $6 million to provide food for hungry households in the Bay Area. The food was delivered to each house, but the SLA refused to release Patty Hearst because they believed the food provided was of poor quality. 8 days later, the SLA sent a tape to a local radio station, asking the girl's father to carry out a $2 million charity program, including giving clothes, food, and $70 in cash to every poor family in California as a gesture of goodwill. The tape included Patricia Hearst's trembling voice. "Mom, Dad, I'm fine. I'm in a combat unit with automatic weapons. They're not just a bunch of rioters. I just hope you'll do what they say, and do it quickly." Randolph Hearst, her father, did as he was told. But the food drive was rife with problems. Riots and fraud broke out at some distribution sites, resulting in dozens of injuries and arrests. A few days later, the SLA sent a second recording, this time with only Patricia's voice, criticizing her parents. "You and your advisors are turning this charity into a complete disaster." Relatives and police had no idea what had happened to the girl. They didn't have to wait long to learn the truth. The most shocking recording to be broadcast nationwide on radio came on an April morning in 1974, 59 days after the kidnapping. "I was given two options by the SLA, to be released or to join their forces and fight for freedom. I chose to stay and fight." She also announced that she had taken a new name, Tanya, after a female comrade of the hero Che Guevara. A photo was also sent with the video, in which Patricia held a gun, wore a guerrilla cap and posed next to a flag with the SLA symbol, the seven-headed snake. According to Patricia's later testimony, when she was first kidnapped, she was locked in a wardrobe for 7 days, blindfolded and tied up even when eating, and was constantly threatened with death. After that, she began to participate in political discussions. The group began a brainwashing campaign to turn this prestigious young lady from the highest class of society into a rebel. And it seems they were successful. Patricia had a history of discord with her parents, and since childhood was not allowed to think and do what she wanted. Like many young Americans in the 1970s, she lived through a time of uncertainty for the country, with the Vietnam War, the Watergate scandal, riots, and unrest everywhere. The SLA hit the weakness of young people like her, struggling to free themselves from vague insecurities. When she agreed to become their teammate, the blindfold was removed. Patricia saw her captors for the first time. After that, she was trained to shoot, throw grenades, and be ready to fight. Her first assignment with the SLA was the robbery of the Hibernia Bank in New Orleans on April 15, 1974. The robbery netted $10,692. 2 witnesses were shot. 1 died. Security camera footage of the robbery was broadcast on television and closely analyzed by the authorities. Patricia appeared to have participated voluntarily and enthusiastically. "I am Tanya. Everyone, get down," she said loudly. After the robbery, the SLA sent a tape recording to local media. "Hello, everyone. This is Tanya. Our actions on April 15th were to force the state to financially support the revolution. As for me being brainwashed, that's ridiculous. I am a soldier who believes in the SLA," Patricia declared. A month after the bank robbery, Tanya, Patty's nickname when she joined the SLA, sat outside a clothing store where 2 SLA members, Emily and Bill Harris, were posing as customers to steal things. Suddenly, they were discovered. Tanya opened fire to open a way for them to escape and shouted, "Let them go, you bastards, or do you all want to die?" Then they stole a car to escape. One of the victims said that Patty appeared in many robberies that the SLA group carried out. This person said that he did not notice any signs of fear or coercion on Patty's face. The information quickly spread and became hot news, receiving special attention from the people. On May 17, 1974, a gunfight occurred between the SLA and the LA police that lasted for 2 hours, causing a large fire. The fight was intense, with many people losing their lives, and ended when DeFries shot himself in the head. While everyone feared that Patty would die in the fire, she survived along with SLA members William and Emily Harris. Patty said, "I died in the fire on 54th Street, but out of the ashes, I was reborn. I knew what I had to do." In September 1975, a year and a half after Patty's complete change of heart, Patty Hearst was arrested by the FBI while staying in her San Francisco apartment with 2 members of the SLA. They were charged with bank robbery. Patty Hearst's trial began on January 15, 1976. Patty's wealthy family hired the famous lawyer F. Lee Bailey to defend her. F. Lee Bailey was known as a talented lawyer who had been successful in many difficult cases, especially in that while other lawyers were always secretive with the press, F. Lee Bailey, on the contrary, was not shy in front of the media and turned it into an advantage for himself. The presiding judge was Oliver Carter, who reportedly knew Patty since she was 5 years old. But this lawyer confirmed in Time and the New York Times that this was completely fabricated to make the trial difficult. Beginning on February 4, 1976, exactly 2 years after Patty was kidnapped, the 39-day trial ran into a major obstacle: public disapproval. Attorney Bailey hired psychologists and diagnosticians who listened to Patty describe in detail how she had been treated by the SLA, from abuse to death threats. But each expert had his own opinion. Psychologist Margaret Singer said that Patty's IQ had dropped dramatically, while Dr. Louis Jolien said that she was in a state of extreme physical stress. Other experts, Dr. William Sargant, Dr. Martin Orne, and Dr. Robert J. Lifton, firmly asserted that Patty had been brainwashed into accepting the actions and political ideas of the SLA. However, Patty's lawyer, Mr. F. Lee Bailey, made his sharp arguments, claiming that the girl was blindfolded and locked in a small room without light, and was also sexually and physically abused. But more horrifying than anything, according to the defense lawyer, Patty was a victim of a brainwashing program. Her 360-degree attitude change was the basis for asserting that she suffered from Stockholm Syndrome. This is a term describing psychological changes. The cause of this syndrome is falling into a state of extreme fear, after which the patient gradually changes hatred into affection for his enemy. Mr. F. Lee Bailey also argued that Patty's words when participating in the bank robbery were all forced and threatened. However, it is unknown why she did not provide evidence of her arrest against the SLA members. This made her considered their accomplice. 2 members of the SLA, Emily and Bill Harris, refused to give evidence against Patty. But the video of Patty carrying out the robbery with her teammates was the clearest evidence against her. One witness also said that Patty smiled brightly at the leader DeFreeze before escaping. At the end of the 2-month trial, with many conflicting opinions, the judge finally announced the maximum sentence: 25 years in prison for Patty Hearst for bank robbery, which was later reduced to 7 years. She was imprisoned until March 1976, when former U.S. President Jimmy Carter pardoned her and reduced her sentence. On January 1, 1979, Patty Hearst was released from prison after serving 22 months.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And as always, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next one.